Phobia alongside nobody. I can't say the rest.
Wow, it's good that you remember.
Yes,
Some of
yes,
us
yes,
can't
yes.
remember our school anthems.
I can remember. I can remember.
Okay.
Should I give you the tune?
Yeah.
So we went to the same school, actually, Wesley Grammar.
Yeah.
We hail thee, we hail thee. We are boys and girls of Wesley. We adore and bless thee, O Father. We come on. I remember.
Mine was Jama for Interco in Supazo.
You see,
You know, Media Secondary School in Kumasi is just by the stadium. So we're really much into the sports. So whenever there's a big match, the whole school becomes very active. People pack in there. When they switch on the floodlights, the whole school is lighted. So it was really very exciting to be there. And hello to everyone in Kumasi and to Tiamas.
Yeah.
So, what is it that you miss now? I don't know if you know what goes on in high schools now, but what is it that we used to do back then that you think that this generation or, students in high school are missing out?
Well, I don't know what they do today, but I think that for me, secondary school was a very important, it was a nurturing ground,
Yeah.
It was where I discovered myself, where I honed my talent, my skills, my abilities, my leadership. So I owe who I am today a lot to the experiences I had in secondary school, to the fantastic teachers and to the fantastic friends. And I hope that, people are still getting that kind of education, where a well-rounded education in our high schools today. So yes, Amas all the way. And I was senior prefect in Amas too. So.
Oh.
School prefect?
Yeah, I was school prefect in Amas.
Of
So
course.
as they say, I was a big boy.
Yeah. Well, talking about talent,
Yes.
doesn't mean that, what you're doing now started from senior high school.
Yes, well, interestingly, I used to write a lot
Okay.
way back. I started writing while I was in JSS and all the way to the university. But in school, people didn't know me for my art. They knew me for my student politics.
Okay.
Because in Amas, I was very active. I was senior school prefect. I was SRC regional president. So
Wow. Look
at
I was
that.
all over the place. I was debate society president and all of that. So I was in those kinds of things. One of those two no boys up and down, talking plenty like that. But of course, I made great friends. But I used to do a lot of, I was a student of literature, government, and I think French. Tu parles français?
Right.
Oui.
Well,
On parle français alors?
Oui.
Ah, je parle beaucoup français alors.
Yeah.
I don't remember my French, right? That was literature, government,
and
French,
yes.
history.
No, I didn't do history.
didn't do history.
But government has a bit of history in
Yeah.
it. But I loved history, so I used to read a lot of history books, right? So I honed my skills. I had great literature teachers, and so when I started actively writing or practicing, it wasn't difficult for me. But in secondary school, people didn't know me as an artist; they knew me as a student leader.
Right, and Chief, one thing I realized back in the School of Performing Arts,
Yes.
Chief was also in School of Performing Arts, by the way, is that our lecturers would tell us that most of us come out of school and throw what we study away and get into the banks and get into the corporate world, do other things. You are continuously pursuing this craft. What is it that inspired you to hold on to what you've learned from T.I. Ahmadiyya to University of Ghana and what you're doing now?
Again, if you had told me when I was back in Legon that I would be practicing full-time art, I wouldn't have been able to confirm because, in Legon too, I was very much into student politics and all of that. But I never let the artistic side of me go. So I used to go to Radio Universe, which, was a student community radio station that had an opportunity. There was a show called Open Air Theater. So you'd go and, read your literary works. We also had a lot of open mic events. Ehala Casa was one of them, right? So I also started going to some of these open mic events. I was just performing for fun. It wasn't because I thought this could be a career. And then one fateful day at one of the open mic events, KSM was there and he saw me. That was sometime around 2009, I think, and he asked me to come onto his show. That was, thank God, it's Friday back then. And so I went, I did a beautiful performance. He asked me to put my number. I put my number, and people started calling me. They were coming, hey, Chief, I want you to come and do a performance. How much do you charge? I'm like, charge? I would do it for free. So I started getting some 150, 200 Ghana cedis. So that's actually how my career as an artist began, not because I had purpose that I was going to do this, I was just open, and then that's one of the things when I interact with younger people, whether in secondary school or in the university, I tell them that just explore your opportunities. School is an opportunity to explore, to feel, to try new things. So beyond what you're studying in class, be part of an organization, take an extra curricular, because these things open up doors and avenues for you that you may not have expected. And look at me today now doing brick productions.
Yeah.
That's how I segued into arts, if you like, full time.
Absolutely. But let's look at the transitions over time,
Yeah.
the changes that have occurred when it comes to theater and arts. In your journey so far, would you say have been some of the transitions that have occurred?
Well, I think that we're now waking up to the reality of what arts and culture can do for our government, can do for our country, right? And I think that we're entering into a golden age of African arts and culture, and it's out of the activism that we've seen over the past decade. Creative artists pushing for the industry. Now you see His Excellency the President has appointed a number of creative artists. I believe the first, in terms of the number into several roles. We asking government to look at the area, to invest in the area. I actually believe that the tourism and the art space is what is going to help us develop. I don't think that any of the major economic policies that we've been pursuing for over 70 years, like industrialization, may really help us develop, because we've done the same old things for 70 years. We are still where we are. So we have to pivot the economy away from the traditional thinking and think of new ways and new opportunities. And I think the art provides us with that new wave. And I think in the next 10 years, we're going to see a much more astronomical growth. We're going to see the industry grow better, impact us better. And some of us, what we're doing with the Mansa World, we're completely committed to ensure that it yields benefits. So yes, we're entering very, very exciting times.
Sometimes when Chief Moomen is talking, I wonder if he takes a breath. He breathes.
Okay, let me breathe in.
He just keeps going. Yes, so much passion.
Yeah.
He keeps going and going and
okay.
going. And I think it would be a perfect way to segue into the Mansa World.
Yes,
something
yes,
that
yes.
you founded, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now you have UNESCO and the rest on. But
Yeah.
let's start with the Mansa World. I think it's a very daring project.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, to start with the Mansa World, we have to start with the Heritage Theatre Series, Wogbejeke, So 10 years ago, we began a journey to reenact the history of Ghana through a series of spectacular theatre production. Again, thanks to KSM. So I came on his show sometime 2009, 2010, did a poetry performance about Ghana. So I called it One Ghana, fusing our cultures and our history together. And he loved it. And he had an opportunity to do a play on the 1948 riots. And I'm sure he talked about it during Heritage Month. And he just thought I could do it. So he called me up, hey, Abdul, that's how he calls me, that I have a project for you, come. So he gave me the opportunity to curate a performance in 2012 for the 1948 riot. It went so well, people loved it. I was like, so why don't I just expand this beyond a moment in our history to our entire history? So that's how I gave birth to the Heritage Theatre Series. Worked on it for 3 years. Thankfully, Keysop came on board, and then in 2015 we launched Wogbejeke. And if you've seen Wogbejeke, it was an attempt to tell the Ghanaian story through spectacular theatre productions, starting from ancient, Ghana, all the way into pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial. It was a labor of love, but it was worth doing because it was an opportunity for us to showcase our history and our story to the rest of the world. So out of Heritage Theatre Series came the idea of the Mansa World. So while Heritage Theatre Series focused on Ghanaian history, even the Mansa World is now focused on African history. And our purpose is to tell the African story on the biggest stages in the world and to bring visibility to our culture and our heritage and to derive cultural and economic value out of it as well.
Absolutely. Now let's get into the partnership with UNESCO. How did that come about?
Oh, well, so we just signed, I just came from Paris, actually about 12 hours ago. So I'm so fresh off that's why my
So the
French,
ice,
the French, the baguette that I was eating, that's why my French is very fluent right now. Anyway, so we signed a major partnership agreement with UNESCO. I think that is one of the biggest endorsements of a creative art project out of Ghana, out of Africa, I should even say. So it's a proud moment for us at the Mansa World, but for the industry in Ghana as a whole. And it's an engagement that we've been having for a number of years now, again, through poetry. And you see the trajectory from one state to another. I met the Assistant Director General of UNESCO called Stefania Giannini in 2021 at Expo Dubai. I did a big performance there during one of the summits on education. So that's how we actually started interacting. And then I was invited to the UNESCO headquarters to make a presentation on heritage and culture because of my work with Heritage Theatre Series. And so I started pitching the idea of the Mansa World. As then we hadn't even created any content around the Mansa World. And UNESCO has a very fantastic project. It's called the General History of Africa. It's from the 70s. They put together some of the greatest academics on the continent and beyond to put together a number of volumes on African history. So they now have a lot of volumes on African history, and they are intending to promote those volumes. So I said, look, the Mansa World seeks to tell the African story, focusing on different regions of Africa across theater, film, comics, merchandise, animation. We are promoting African history, African heritage on the global stage. You have the general history of Africa. I see this as a great linkage. We would use your material as our source material. We will create our content, and you can help us promote around the world. And we started discussing, going for interviews. I flew to Paris a number of times. And then when we did our first production in 2022, which was a preview production, Mansa Musa and the Trail of Lost Gold, UNESCO. I sent them the videos, the reviews. They looked at it. They said, okay, this guy is onto something. And then discussion upon discussion. In 2023, we took a team of 60 to Paris to launch the entire Mansa World project. And they saw the performance then, and they recognized what this could become. So kudos to UNESCO for their foresight. Because look, Bamboo Heritage Production, we're just a small production house from Ghana. We're not the biggest. We don't have resources. We are struggling. But UNESCO has found it, expedient, and useful to attach their brand to us. And so that speaks to the potential of what we're going to be doing.
That's massive. Yeah.
I know what, as a performing artist, I know what 150 cast and crew is like, Chief Moomen.
Yes.
How you are handling all these people.
Yes.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that there's a partnership with UNESCO. I'm sure you have support from other places. How are you taking care? I'm asking you as a brother now, how are you taking care of all these people?
I tell people that since we've started production, we've never made a profit. We've never even broken even. Every production we do, we make a loss.
So how are you managing them?
Yes, so we try. So since Work Budget has been a labor, in fact, that's actually why I started the Mansa World, because after a while doing Work Budget, the debt, selling assets and properties, and it was just overwhelming. So I said, let me go back onto the drawing board and rethink this approach to art, study models all around the world and see what can I do that can make a business case for big investment. And so I study what others are doing in the world. And for example, the Disney world, what is really, it's in the world of IP, intellectual property, an IP can be extended into different iteration. So if you do a movie and people love it, you can do a stage production out of it. You can have merchandise out of it. You can have a podcast out of it. And so I realized that that's how they derive value. So when you create a product, it doesn't exist within just one formula. It can iterate. And so that's what we wanted to do with the Mansa, or we then decided to do with the Mansa World. So at the end of the day, my pitch to investors is that if you're investing in the Mansa World, you're not investing in a theater production, you're investing in a world that will spawn different kinds of productions, from theater to movies to animation. So currently, with the Mansa World, we have the theater production, we have the music album that is being developed, and we have the Mansa Orchestra that deals with just the music, and we're going to be producing other content as we go along. So that's the business case that we're making, and we've been pitching to a number of local investors. It took us about 5 years to bring on board some Ghanaian business leaders. So we have a number of Ghanaian business leaders now supporting the project, and we're now engaging internationally for major finance. I mean, we need millions of dollars to create the kind of content that we create, to take it to the kind of markets that we try to create. And that's one lesson here for all of our artists. Look, even as I stand here, my account is zero because I'm running a show on Friday, Saturday. If I tell you that I've never had savings in my life since I started this, you'd never believe me, right? But how have we been able to come this far? There are other kinds of currency beyond, how do you call it, cash. And the biggest currency for us has been the quality of our product. Whether it's a Chief Moomen standing on stage doing a performance in Dubai somewhere in UNESCO, seeing the need to bring me into Paris, or whether you see my theater production and saying, okay, there is value and there's worth in it. So that's the currency that I've used. It's just the power of the content to continue to drive our momentum and to continue to push the frontiers. And eventually, we're going to bring in that huge investment, which is going to now enable us to put our products on the global stage. And hey, we're trying to create $1 billion product. So it will take a long time, but we're on the course. It
will definitely take a long time. But I mean, so far, so very good.
Yeah,
but theater in Ghana, we've come a long way. And during Ghana month like this, we celebrate not just our food, but our music, our movies, and everything that celebrates Ghana. What are we doing right when it comes to theater? And what are we also not doing right when it comes to theater?
I like to focus on the positive. These are very, very exciting times for those of us in the theater space. Now you see a lot more youthful, ambitious producers, now producing my brother George Quay, Fifi Coleman, Nashoko, what's his name, Kobe, and Globe Productions, all of them coming in. So there's a growth. We are building our audience. We are building an industry from scratch. Obviously, there are infrastructure challenges. There are finance challenges. We have our national theater that is becoming decrepit. That needs a huge renovation, right? And we don't even have a series of theaters across the country. So when you do your show in the national theater, you're kind of like stuck. Imagine we had about at least 3 or 4 different kinds of theaters, major theaters across the country. You could go on tour, right? But no problem, we're going to solve that, and we're not even just looking at government, we're actually encouraging private industry, right? I mean, people in this, we've invested a lot in real estate. People have hundreds of houses, and we're saying that instead of having 100 houses, can you have 50 and at least put some of the money into event spaces that will be useful for our industry? But that is not for the old generation, that is for us. I'm on a campaign that says that, look, this old generation, they are set in their ways, right? You're not now going to tell Despite what to use his money for. Sorry, I'm just using him as an example, right? So it's up to you and I, Akufo, Anita, myself. When we make the money, how are we being innovative with our investment? And I mean, Nambo, I know you're going to make some good money. I can see it from your
He's
face.
rich.
And
He's
Anita as well,
he's
right?
very rich,
yes,
by the
and
way.
my friend Banasco
I mean-
as
Banasco.
well.
Big shout out.
Mr. Nambo, what are you doing with your money?
Big shout out to
So for
Banasco.
us, the young people, we need to begin to rethink the way we invest our money in order to open new frontiers for the economy. So yes, it hasn't been easy, but I'm excited that we are building a whole theater movement in Ghana. And I think in the next 10 years, it will be very exciting.
Chief, let me take you on that. I like what you've just said. Young people diversifying and also looking at where to invest and growing our theater industry. But we've been here before, Chief. When we were young, theater was a big thing, even film. You know,
it was big.
and then at some point there was a huge, for the want of a better word, lack. The interest went down. People were more interested in other theater productions, other films from other countries, and now it seems the love is coming back. I like that you also mentioned something about transmedia storytelling, where it's not just theater, but it also translates into film, podcast, and even merch, creating merch. You know, and so how do we sustain this interest? So that in 5-10 years from now, Chief Moomen, we don't look back at this interview and say, oh, we spoke loudly and boldly, and here we are again. There's a gap. We need to grow theater again. We need to grow our industry again.
I mean, if 10 to 20 years from now, you know, you see me around the bus station, you know, looking more broad, you know, trying to take a trotro and not having
Too
money.
young, 10, 20 years from now.
You know, 10, 20.
I'm just joking.
I mean, to mean that, okay, there's no, well, this guy was talking plenty, where has he ended up? But 10 years from now, you want to see me 20 years, okay, go to meet me at the airport. I'm flying on my private jet. I have a show opening in New York, so let's just meet quickly at the VIP lounge. I pull up in my Lamborghini. I don't like those cars. I'm just giving an example, right? So we have to succeed. Success is the best inspiration.
Indeed.
I said I want to make I want to build $1 billion industry if I succeed. Use Chief Moomen ko tia me de secondary school tia denta ya hwe wa ye play ni poetry na hwe sia if you were 60 and then businesses. It will inspire a whole generation.
Yes,
so we cannot fail. The only way to succeed and to continue the momentum is that those of us now in the industry who are trying to build a resurgence, as you said, and that's the philosophy of life. Things go up, they go down. Things go up, they go down. But now we have to take it even a notch higher than it has ever been. We have to make sure we succeed. We have to understand what we're doing. We have to be singular in our dedication and our focus, and we have to deliver such results as would encourage generations to know that, okay, there is value in what we are doing. So yes, the answer to your question, hit me back in 10 years. If I'm at the station, trotro, you know that, Charlie. If you are meeting me at the airport, VVIP lounge, inshallah.
Well, let's also take you back to, your school days.
Yes.
Theater from back in the days. How was it like?
I mean, I remember when I was in school, right? First of all, secondary school. And then I worked with him now, Asterix. They came to Tiamede Secondary School to do, I think it was Marriage of Announce, where, you know, the National Drama Company used to go around school. It was so beautiful. It was so inspiring. In the University of Ghana, I used to watch theater productions, and they do fantastic theater productions, you know, at the School of Performing Arts. And one of the best productions I watched, Shaka the Zulu, you know, Yasantua, all of these were important, formative moments for me, inspiration for me. I was like, yeah, I like to do things like that, right? And in Legon, I studied under two of the best professors. So I did English and theater arts. In English, I studied under Professor Kofi Anyidaho, who I consider one of the best, if not the best, African poet. And in theater, I studied under Professor Martin Owusu, one of the best writers and directors, right? So these were like celebrities in my eyes, you know, so I was always so attentive in class. Not that I'm a particularly attentive student, but when I'm interested in the subject, I'm attentive, right? So these were very, to have these mentors, and they are still my mentors. Professor Kofi Anyidaho, for example, hasn't missed any single production that I've done, and I go to him, and he's really proud of what we are doing with theater, myself, with poetry and theater, Nana Sasi, and all. So I think that experience in school was great. Whatever we did back in secondary school, what we saw. I mean, I had a teacher called Scales, you know, he was not an English teacher, but he used to teach me literature, because that's the way he talked. I was like, say, I think you're interested in literature. I said, yes. And he used to teach me. I mean, now you can't do it. Right? Sometimes he will look at you and say, "Oh, impregnate you," and the girl will say, "Oh, sir," with English.
But do you think we should bring back some of these moments where the young people get to see some of these plays? Because
Of
you
course.
mentioned it and they don't even know.
Of course. I don't know. I think that this, I don't know if it still happens. I don't know if the National Drama Company still goes around. But theater is one of the most important things, and art is one of the most important things we can use to inspire our young minds, right? So one of the things that, in fact, tomorrow we're actually doing a show for students, just for students, because it's important for young
Yeah.
people to be inspired at this age. And one of the things that some of us are very particular about, and especially when we make some good income, is to take this production you see at the National Theatre in all its grandiosity to the rural areas. I imagine, packing 5,000 people in a village square somewhere
Wow.
and just treating them to this powerful experience, right? We should never underestimate the power of triggering visions, ideas, and interest in young minds. I was triggered as a young mind. Something was lighted in me because of what I was exposed to the literature I read, to the history I read, to the professors I met. I think that every young person deserves that opportunity to set them up for life in terms of their visions and their purpose. So yes, bring back the love for theater and the arts in school.
Yeah.
Wonderful. But now it's time to talk about
Yes.
Mansa Musa and the Trail of Lost Gold.
Oh my goodness.
Chief,
Yeah.
what a production.
You've seen it?
Not yet.
The
review-
actor in you is speaking.
But the reviews, I was on
Okay.
set last week, and
Okay,
the
yeah.
boys were telling me, Clinton and the rest were telling me
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yo, Godwin, you have to see this. And
Saturday.
tell us a little bit about it and when it's showing.
On Saturday, you guys have to be there. Anita, Godwin. Boys! You four represent. You will love it, right? It's a very immersive production that takes you through on a journey through ancient West Africa, right? Through the kingdoms of Ghana, Mali, through the foundational period of the Mali's empire, through the life of Sundiata Keita and Sumanguru Kante. And we have a cast and crew of 150. We have the choir, we have the instrumentalists, we have the actors and the narrators and the dancers. It's a visual feast, and we're building it for the global markets. We've had time to really improve it, every time we stage it. So now we're staging for the last time in Accra, at least for this season. I don't think we may be doing a show until maybe December. So this is the last time to see Mansa Musa and the Trail of Lost Gold at the National Theatre. We're running 2 shows, 3:30 p.m. and 8 p.m. And it's a family-friendly production. There are ticket packages for families, for couples, for VIP, for VVIPs. I just want to encourage everyone, to come and see the show. As my brother George Quay says, if you didn't enjoy the show, I will give you your money back.